Hey guys, I'm Jackie Brubaker, host of the Love You Even More podcast. I'm an author, speaker, 2-time Emmy Award winner, and entrepreneur. I'm a Jackie of all trades and a master of some. Each week, I bring on people from all walks of life to talk to them about their inspiring stories in the fields of self-development, relationships, business, and how you can love yourself even more. For more about me and the podcast, visit us at loveyouevenmore.com. Welcome, Kamini Wood, to the Love You Even More podcast. Kamini is a human potential coach, and we are going to talk all about the potential and the autonomy of ourselves and how we can better really grow into ourselves as the person we are. And she's here to help us do that. I'm very excited about this conversation. We've already been chatting and she's just lovely. So welcome, Kamini, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me in those lovely, kind words. I appreciate it.
I'm going to let you just introduce yourself just a tiny bit, just to give people kind of a background on who you are. You guys always do a better job than I can. And that is it. Go.
I am Kamini Wood. I am based out of North Carolina. I work with individuals, though, across the globe. And when I say that I'm a human potential coach, really what I'm doing is working with individuals on a one-to-one basis, helping them figure out what false beliefs or narratives or stories are holding themselves back, whether it be professionally or personally. The truth is, I didn't set out to do this. I actually ventured on this path through going through my own professional growth. I was actually a project manager to begin with, ended up running project management offices and ran a law practice. But really, it was my own self-growth and self-transformation that led me on this path of recognizing that what I enjoyed from a professional standpoint, I could bring in this self-growth that I had also gone through, bring it together and really serve people as best as I can.
I love it. She does so many things. You guys need to go to her website. It will be in the links, obviously. But seriously, she does so many things. I was like, I don't even know what I want to talk to her about because there's so many different parts we could cover. But yes, so today we really are going to talk about our potential. So when you talk about autonomy of a person, what does that mean? And how do we even start to figure out like who we are at the core of us? Because there's so much outside stuff happening and we're so influenced by media, our family, our partners, friends, everything. Like, how do we kind of get to like square one or like the root of who we are?
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I do think that growing up, we are influenced by, our family of origin. We're influenced by the culture, society, our own personality. Like those are really the 4 pillars that are going to influence us. But when we're coming back to how do we create our own autonomy, our own agency, it is so important for us to start at the basics, which are recognizing what our own core values are. And I know that there are lots of lists out there of core values. I'm a real believer in taking the time to work through, what are those moments that you felt most in flow or in connection with yourself? And then also, what are those moments where maybe you didn't feel as connected? Maybe those are those sad moments or regrettable moments. And I'd say look at both of those, because even in the sad or regrettable moments, what we're noticing with those emotions of sadness or regret or, anger, on the flip side of it is that those emotions are telling us what we value. They're telling us that we're feeling this way because we value something. So we could use both the positive and the negative, right? This is an example of why it doesn't help us to say good and bad, positive, negative. Instead, these are just they're two sides of a coin. We can use both of them to say what's actually meaningful to me. That's going to help us figure out what those core values are. And that's where we start. Then we go into what are my core needs? Oftentimes we don't take the time to ask ourselves, what is it that I need? What is it I need in relationships? What is it that I need just on my own, like going through the world? What is it that I need in my professional career? It's so important to be able to presence those things as well. So we talk about our values and our needs. And then the third pillar that I often talk about is look at those beliefs. Understand what are those core beliefs that you have, because some of us have been maybe through family of origin or upbringing, maybe through society or culture. We've created some limiting beliefs around ourselves. We've made it mean like maybe I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not deserving. Really important to understand and bring to the forefront what those are so you can work through them and really come to what is true about you. Because when we have those 3 things, our values, our needs, and those core beliefs that serve us, Now those three things can help prop us up in order for us to step into our autonomy or into our own agency.
Absolutely. I really think that we are carrying so many stories from so many different eras of our lives and so many
Mm-hmm.
different voices of our lives that, we can have a story from high school that is still just lingering. And I literally just did a podcast where I was sort of talking about this right before you. And it's just like, is it true anymore? Or is it just
Right.
something you've been telling yourself for a long time, or someone said something to you and it hurt? And I love that you bring up, looking at the negative aspects because you're telling yourself something, like you're getting information. It might not be in
Mm-hmm.
the most positive way, but people tend to have way more negative feelings than positive feelings. So that's
Yes,
great. When we have a negative feeling, we don't have to be like, oh, I don't want to feel that. Let me push that away. It can be like, wait, let me see what's happening here. So how does
exactly.
someone start to like diagnose that negative feeling? Like, let's just give an example. Let's say, oh gosh, body image. Let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, what's really important with, and I'm actually working with several people on body image issues right now, and it's really presencing, what for them it's, paying attention to the activating event, first of all, like what triggers you into that space, but then it's getting curious with yourself. Okay, so not just the thought that you're having, but what is the feeling? Because
Hmm.
oftentimes we mistake thoughts for feelings. We'll say, like, I feel, but it's really a thought. And
Yeah.
so it's pushing ourselves to actually name the feeling. And then with that feeling, say, okay, a part of me, not I am feeling, because part of the work is also recognizing that we should not, it's not about identifying with the feeling. The feeling's not who we are. It's a part of us that feels that way. And then we say that part of me that is feeling this way, what is that telling me? Right. So part of me that's feeling anxious, what is the anxiety telling me I need? Or what is the anxiety telling me that I value that's not being met?
Hmm.
That allows us room to not feel guilt or shame around the feeling, because oftentimes we will feel shame around certain, like there'll be the emotion of shame around the feelings that we're having, right? Especially when it comes to body image, there'll be shame around this feeling of inadequacy. Like I feel inadequate, I feel less than.
Hmm.
Well, now we add shame on top of that, and that just layers it to, and in terms of shame, now we really are taking away this I'm not, there's something wrong with me, I'm not
Yeah.
worthy. That's taking you so far away from any type of agency or autonomy, because all that's doing is shrinking you into I'm not good enough. So with those emotions, it is about compassionate curiosity. It is about naming it and then saying, okay, what are you telling me that I need here? What is this emotion telling me? I am such a firm believer in paying attention to emotions.
Yeah.
So often, I think growing up to, oftentimes the message like around sadness will be, buck up, or, be
Right.
brave, don't cry, right? It's fine, it'll be fine. Or, now what's happening is there's, I love positive outlooks. I love gratitude. I fully believe in a gratitude practice. I love looking at positive things, but I don't believe in toxic positivity. And what
Right.
I mean by that is, if somebody's sharing with you a feeling or an emotion around something,
Yeah.
immediately going to, well, at least it's, I mean, as soon as you hear that term, at least, there's covert shame happening there, first of all,
Yeah.
that you shouldn't feel the thing that you're feeling. But also, we're totally bypassing the experience of what that emotion is telling us that
Mhm.
that person needs. And
Mhm.
then we're completely diminishing and kind of overshadowing what that person was trying to share with us in the first place.
Absolutely. And most times when people do that, it's because they don't want to sit in that ickiness that the other person is feeling. It's triggering
Absolutely.
them. It's
Absolutely.
how do
Yes.
I stop this bleeding? I don't even like it on this person. I wanted to stop. um,
Yes.
but that's it really kind of comes full circle, right? Where it's like when people are like, oh, I just don't want to think about that. I just want to like push it away within other people or themselves,
Hmm.
that shame or whatever is actually coming up just continues to stay there. And the autonomy of why do you feel that isn't
Hmm.
explored. And so I love that you brought up being curious about it. Um, I'm also I love my therapist and I do a lot of somatic work and I really love somatic work because we hold all of our stuff in our bodies.
Yes.
When you talk about feelings, um, do you ask your clients to find like can you feel it in your body? Do you do any of that?
Absolutely. I always challenge my clients to drop down into their body and tell me where they feel it. And then we go into talk about what does it feel like? Like give it some type of description. Because if we can actually magnify what that feeling is and we let it become bigger and then let that also talk to us, that is going to give us so much information. And it's exactly to what you said. Somatic work is so powerful because our body is holding so much of this intelligence. And oftentimes we get stuck in the cognitive, we get stuck in the thoughts about the thing. But if we can drop into the body, like for instance, even with me, I am an anxious person. I have anxiety. And I know full well before I'm even thinking about something when something has activated some anxiety within me, because I've gotten so used to being able to do like a quick body scan.
Yeah.
I know exactly where that feeling is. I can describe it. And the moment I can describe it, I can actually now magnify it and really presence like, okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And then I can now go into, okay, and so what do you need, Kamini? Like, let's figure out what we need and let's access that. And so I talk a lot about that with my clients too, is that the work that I do isn't about no longer experiencing these things. Because like anxiety, as an example, that is a human experience. It is part of the emotional realm, right? And so instead of it being personal development, let's get rid of these things. And it's really about making it okay, first of all, and giving ourselves permission to bring ourselves back to center in a shorter amount of time. So instead of the anxiety taking over and then either shutting down or kind of having that paralysis moment of like, I can't do anything, I'm now in an apathetic state, what we're doing with the work is learning to go towards it, process through it, so that we can continue moving forward.
What if someone is hearing this and they're like, that sounds great, I'm terrified to go towards it? How do they begin to do that?
That is such a great question. And I totally honor that because I think I was the same way.
I think we're all like that. It's like, it sounds great. I'd love to do it. However, everything in me is like, no.
Well, that's why I am a firm believer in support, first of all. This is like, anytime that we go through this, and I'm not saying making a plug, like go get a coach, like you must hire me. It's also support, like our family, our friends, the people in our world that we truly trust and feel like we can be vulnerable with. Talk about it, especially because like, for instance, when we are afraid of something or we're not willing to talk about it, usually some type of shame is lurking there. Yeah. And the only way to really unshame is to actually bring those things to the light, to actually put words to what it is that we're experiencing. So talking about it and saying like, I'm about to do this thing and I'm super scared and I need support, and just presence that need.
Yeah.
And then it's about giving yourself permission to do it in bite-sized pieces. We don't have to jump all the way into it. It's give yourself permission to go as slow as you need to, but just keep moving forward.
I love that because it is a teeny step at a time. And also speaking your shame or your anxiety or whatever it is that's coming up for you, actually speaking it out loud decreases its power over you. Because if it's just swirling around in your head, it's got a lot of power. But once you actually say it out loud, you completely diminish it, not completely, but a lot. And other people now hear it and it doesn't seem as like terrifying as it used to. I actually did that yesterday with a group of people where I was, there was something that I was feeling really shameful about. And I've been saying what it is multiple times to unshame myself and to like take its power away. And it's really empowering to speak it. So I love that you're talking about this with people because like the moment you're just like, hey, I'm really struggling with this, or this thing happened to me, let me tell you about it because I really do want to like heal and work through it. You do get the support. Hopefully you're at the right audience, but you do unburden yourself. And I think that's a huge part of what you're talking about and finding autonomy again.
Absolutely. And part of what keeps us from having agency is the covert shame or the inner shame that we have that we're not paying attention to. So when we're not willing to name our experiences or saying that we're struggling with something, that is an internalized shame. It's like, it's almost where we are telling ourselves like, I shouldn't feel this way, or I shouldn't have done this thing. And when we say I shouldn't do these things, or I shouldn't feel this way, we're saying that there's something wrong with us. And so I am a firm believer in speaking these things out loud, because even if nobody else is witnessing it, us speaking it out loud and us hearing it with our own ears gives us that ability to be like, oh, like that's not right. Like, or
Right.
that's really mean or like kind of gross. Like, why would I talk to myself that way?
Yeah.
And then it allows room to even bring a little self-compassion into the perspective too, where it's like, okay, so maybe go to kindness rather than judgment here. What would that look like? What would that sound like?
Yeah.
Maybe by speaking it out loud, we realize, wow, if I'm experiencing this, other people must have had a similar experience as well. And we can lean into the part of self-compassion that says, like, yeah, common humanity. Other people have had similar experiences. So
Absolutely.
it allows room for us to move through it rather than it dictating us from, behind, so to speak.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned with anxiety, that's kind of like a lifelong thing. Like we're always going to have anxiety. But I love that you're feeling it in your body and then you're making it bigger to just be like, where is it? What is actually happening here? I know I do this with me, but I was wondering if you do this with you. My body's very loud and it wants to be very known, especially in any kind of dangerous situation. It'll be like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to, for a very long time, feel all of that, but think, oh no, I'm just overreacting. This is all in my head. You just need to feel the fear and do it anyway, which I do believe in. I love that quote, but it was
Mm-hmm.
not the right kind of fear. It was your body screaming, no, 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 no. So
Yeah.
now instead, when I feel it, and this is typically with people most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, uh-huh, got it. Great. I don't even need to understand why I'm feeling this or ask more questions or investigate more with the person. See you later. Like, and it doesn't even
Yeah.
need to be super overwhelming. It just needs to be a feeling of like, yeah, I don't think that that's like happening. Like, I talked to someone on a plane the other day and it was fine. It was like a totally fine conversation. And the whole time I just kind of felt like this weird disconnect. And I'm like, yeah, that's enough. That's enough of a feeling. And it was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was wondering if that's what happens for you too.
It absolutely has, as I've cultivated it, right? As I've given myself permission to pay attention to the feelings in my body,
Mm.
I call it the inner voice, right? The inner voice, the inner knowing, the inner knowledge. I absolutely pay attention to those signs now because now I know what each of them means, right? Like, so I was talking about, I know what anxiety feels like. I also know, and as you're saying with people, especially, I know when my body's telling me that there's a misalignment between who I am or my energy and this person's energy. And
Mhm.
I very, very similar to what you said. It's like, I'm good. I'm complete with this conversation and I can move on without carrying any guilt and also not sitting there and overanalyzing it. Because again, when we start to overanalyze it, we're pushing ourselves back into the brain space. And it's
Right.
not that our brains are bad. It's not that, but it's giving yourself, it's okay to listen to that inner guidance and that
Yeah.
inner knowledge and inner knowing.
Hmm. No, that's so true. It just we do intellectualize so much of our feelings. So hold on, I'm going to stop really quick. I don't know why my computer suddenly needs to like be charged. It was charged all night, but let me grab my battery because I don't want to lose this.
Okay. Okay.
Hi, Kitty. I was like, why? Why is it on red? Okay, hold please. All right, great. All better. Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Um, oh, hold on. Okay, I'm back. All nestled. All right. Okay, I know where I left off. All right. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, I think what's really fascinating about intellectualizing our emotions and not feeling it in our bodies or not being allowed to like feel it through our bodies is that we're really protecting ourselves, I think. I think with the like overthinking, over rationalizing. It doesn't give us a chance to feel what's happening. I notice this a lot. I'm an actor and I take class every Saturday for like the entire day. And what's really interesting is people will get up to do their scene and you can tell that they understand the character. Like they get the assignment, but their bodies are like disconnected. And it's really fascinating to see like someone in process, like working on something and be like, I know you're smart. I get it. I totally get that you get this, but your body is completely disconnected. So in real people life, not on a stage, what is happening when that's happening?
I do think that it's a protective part, right? It's the protective part that's wanting to. I do believe that overthinking and overanalyzing is this protective part that shows up in order with this intention to keep the person safe, maybe, or to keep this person from experiencing pain. And part of the two parts to this. One, part of the human experience, there's going to be pain, right? And so it's reminding ourselves that it's not really about avoiding pain. It's really, what do we do with that pain? Do we sit in it and suffer, or do we choose to recognize the experience of pain, and how do we work through it? How do we continue to grow through it? But that overthinking, overanalyzing part of us has this intention, again, to protect us and to keep us safe, most often from pain or disappointment. And if we can recognize that and understand that that's what its intention is, we can actually then bring these other parts in, the parts such as our body, and saying, okay, we recognize that the brain wants to overthink to keep us safe, but we can also trust our body to give us some knowledge. Going back to what we just previously said about the inner knowing and the gut instinct, we can allow those two parts to learn to work together, almost speaking to each other.
Yeah.
And that allows us the room to kind of move from that overthinking back into, okay, I'm noticing this about myself, but also how can I bring my body into the conversation as well?
I think you make such a good point because I can hear somebody saying, well, I know people always tell me to trust myself or trust my gut, right? But I am
Yes.
terrified to trust my gut because my brain is overthinking for like days. How do
Mm-hmm.
people learn, especially if they're dealing with any kind of like high stress anxiety, trying to figure some stuff out? How do they learn how to trust their gut and actually do what it's telling them to do?
This is going to sound like such a cheesy answer, but it's to start with really small things, like really small decisions, right? Where you allow yourself to make a small decision, but instead of just making the small decision and moving on, because that's what we normally would do because we don't have to overthink it, we actually push ourselves to check in with our body. Like, how does our body know that that's the answer or the decision that we want to make? So we're calibrating the connection between the brain saying this is the decision and how our body feels with that decision. We're kind of bringing the two things together. So then as we're getting into those bigger decisions and we're like, how do I trust myself? Well, we've already trained, we've built the muscle. We know what our body feels like when it's we know what the intuition feels like when it's giving us messages because we've created it from those smaller decisions.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love that that's like building a muscle through smaller reps.
Yes, exactly. We start with the 3 pounds.
Right. Oh my gosh. And then you can obviously move up in the reps. But oh, that's so great because I think so many people like get the hit to do something and then immediately shut themselves down because they're like, oh no, I could never do that. But like you didn't
Yes.
get the hit for nothing. Like that
Right.
idea didn't just come down just to pester you.
Right. And when that idea came down, as you build that muscle, you'll learn to also drop into your body. What does
Yeah.
it feel like? Right? So it's both we're building both sides of it really at the same time.
I love that. So we have this like great, we're using our gut, we're listening, we're like figuring out which parts are real, which parts are just like blah, 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 blah. When do you find that your clients really feel in their autonomy and feel most themselves?
When they are starting to they're starting to recognize that they've built up that self-trust, right? When they actually they trust themselves to meet a challenge or trust themselves to make that decision. They trust themselves to speak their needs that happens, oh my gosh, in the relationships, especially where they've built this pattern and practice of maybe people pleasing or over giving or over functioning for their partner, or even in workplace relationships, when they are really, they know that they've started to step into their own agency and their own autonomy, when they're no longer afraid to say, no, that doesn't work for me. I need this. That's a huge step towards being like, okay, I'm starting to feel what this is like. Knowing full well that when we first start doing that, when we first step into that autonomy, it is scary. And it's also really not comfortable for the people who have not experienced us that way. Right. Because if we've created a pattern and practice with people of us kind of, somewhat dimming our light or sort of shifting to the background, we're like, the background in the scene, so to speak. And now suddenly we're stepping forward and we're taking our place in the front of the scene. Other people are going to have a reaction to it. And it's learning to kind of sit in that and being okay with that uncomfortability and allowing those people to assimilate to the way that you're showing up, knowing full well that those people who choose not to assimilate, those people who choose not to be with you because you've stepped into this autonomy or agency, they weren't your people to begin with. They were actually benefiting from you being in the background.
Yeah. And that's painful, but beautiful. It's really trimming the fat of your life and getting to be the lead character energy. I love that saying. Like, you should be the lead character. It's like, yes, you should.
Absolutely. You should be the lead character of your own life instead of being, you're not my oldest daughter is, she's a professional ballerina. And so the vision that always comes into my head is like, you are the principal. You are not part of the core.
Yes. I love that I read that too. I was like, of course she is. Yeah, no, it is. It's about that. Like, I know I've experienced that and I've cut friendships out that were really important friendships, but I was like, how come I am always in the background? Like, how come even when good things happen to me, like no one seems to care? I'm like, this isn't normal. And then also like putting those boundaries with people that you do know care about you, but have put you in a role in their lives. And then you suddenly start having those boundaries and having those like, okay, yeah, I have to go now.
Yeah.
Just as simple as, hey, this is your stuff and I have to go.
Yes, exactly.
Mean, it's so uncomfortable because you kind of, well, for me, I'll just speak for myself, kind of feels like you're being a parent. And in a way, you kind of are because you might be dealing with someone's 10-year-old self at the time, but like it's for their own good because, well, this is what I tell myself again, but like, we can't fix everyone. We're not supposed to. They're supposed to fix themselves.
It's not ours. Yes, and if it's not ours.
Right. It's not ours. And just, it is so much more freeing and more powerful. And I think just that alone, like what you described, would just increase your autonomy so fast. You would just be like, I do love myself. I really do. Not because you're some, boundary lane like meanie, but you're just like, no, I'm really looking out for me finally, instead of everyone else, perhaps.
Exactly. And you're not, by setting boundaries, you're not being a meanie. It's boundaries are honestly just giving, it allows room to have those healthier relationships because there is true communication about what works and what doesn't work. And also boundaries with self, right? Having your own boundaries, like and own agreements with yourself of this works for me and this doesn't work for me. It's huge as well.
I want to talk about that really fast because that's really important, knowing your own boundaries for you and being good to you, because we can be so good to others. And then maybe we do have boundaries with others and like we're growing, that's great. But I feel like, and you do work with so many high achieving people, and I am in that camp, where we come last. And how does that get balanced in to creating better autonomy? How can we, because I can just hear us all these overachievers are just like, but I have so much to do and I've got to get it done by this time. And this is my deadline, excuse after excuse after excuse. How do we create better boundaries with ourselves?
Well, first of all, it's huge. I mean, if we don't have those boundaries with ourselves, eventually we're going to burn out. We're not going to have the ability to continue to go forward because we're trying to operate from a completely empty space. The boundaries with ourselves, it's a shift in mindset. It's remembering that setting those boundaries with ourselves is actually a self-care and a very self-full act. If we can shift it from, it's selfish. That's a lot of overachievers will say, okay, well, it's selfish to do that. Like I've got all these things to do and all these responsibilities. But there's a difference between being a human doing and a human being. And if we can remember that we're not human doings, we're human beings. So if we set those boundaries with ourselves of how can I be my best self? What do I need in order to be my best self or to show up as my best self? Those are the agreements with self. That will help us then get the doing done, right? Instead, we put the doing first, and we have to allow ourselves to be in order to do.
I love it. It's almost like pay yourself first.
Exactly.
Pay yourself first. Oh my gosh. I love this conversation. What are some last thoughts that people really need to know about having better autonomy?
A couple things that I would just like to share is one, I'm one of those people that's super transparent. I tend to be pretty blunt. When we step into things like having our own autonomy and own agency, super scary if we've been in the background. So I just want to kind of own that and put that out there. But also, if we don't step into that agency and autonomy, we really are living someone else's life. We're living someone else's script. And instead, it's about, can we write our own script and choose how we want to show up? It shifts us from living a reactive life into a generative life.
Oh, that's so true. It's so true. Again, main character energy. That's what we're aiming for. All of your links will be in the bio or the description, but tell people how they can find you just in case they're driving right now.
On the web at kaminiwood.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram with the handle It's Authentic Me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kamini. This was so fun. Come back anytime, girl.
Thank you so much.